So, ladies and gentlemen, we are back at the 2025 NRB in Dallas, Texas, and I have my dear friend Bruce Rosenthal with us today. Bruce is the president of the Zionist Friendship League. And Bruce and I have known each other for several years now, admirer of all the work that he is doing. And so I'm so grateful to see you here at the National Religious Broadcasters Convention, of all places to meet.
Yes, well, this is the first conference that I've attended of the NRB. I happened to meet Troy. We happen to have a PR person in common who's fabulous. This has done great work for me and does great work for NRB. And she introduced us, and Troy and I had a very friendly Zoom introduction, which was followed by us meeting for an extended lunch. And he invited me to attend this. And my organization, interestingly enough, we are a avowed pro-Zionist, but we also are unique in that our board is one third basically evangelical Christians, 1/3 Israelis, and 1/3 American Jews, which is I don't know of any other Jewish-led, if you will, pro-Zionist organization with that kind of a makeup. And my attitude has always been that we are affirmatively appreciative and grateful to the Christian and evangelical community. They have historically been the American saviors of Israel. Our organization was formed, frankly, because there are lots of other organizations that profess to be pro-Israel. Unfortunately, most of the frankly Jewish ones are way leftist, really not pro-Israel. In fact, they're controlled, unfortunately, by the large majority of the American Jewry movement, which the Reform movement in particular, I have a huge problem with. They still have in their main principal documents a calling for a two-state solution, and the head of the Reform rabbis, amazingly, was it late last week, he came out with this letter to 100 U.S. senators opposing the most pro-Israel supporter who's been to Israel over 100 times on his own, former Governor Mike Huckabee, to be ambassador. We were thrilled at his appointment. We strongly support him, and was astounded at the outrageous conduct of this other ostensibly Jewish pro-Israel organization that had the temerity to oppose him.
That's shocking. Governor Huckabee has been one of the greatest stalwart early on. He's been a Zionist himself for many, many years.
He has, and he's been honored by, one of the other organizations that we work somewhat with a bit, because we're allied on our strong support of Israel, is ZOA, Zionist Organization of America, and Mort Klein. And Mort, his organization issued a spectacular letter in support of Ambassador Huckabee, condemning in some length the ridiculous actions of this other Jewish organization. And frankly, one of the things I spend, I'm thrilled to attend a convention like this and be with like-minded people, because I frankly spend way too much of my time talking to Israel's strongest supporters in Congress. As a Jew, they come to me and say, Bruce, explain to me, why is it that all these Jewish organizations oppose me, campaign against me, And yet, I've been the strongest supporter of Israel. What is their issue? What is their problem? And I've constantly had to attempt to explain the illogical, but unfortunately, it is what it is. That a lot of these other organizations have confused identities and confused leftist politics that seem to get in the way of their attitudes on every issue.
Right.
And on this issue, we're not. We have one mission in this organization and one purpose, and that is strong advocates for Israel, as it says on our website. We recognize that Israel as the proper and the only sovereign nation in its historic homeland, and the notion from the river to the sea, our attitude is from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, the only flag you should ever see is the flag of the state of Israel.
Absolutely. So we have a major problem with Zionism being attacked right now. And your organization is clearly not anti-Zionist. It is clearly, we support a one-state solution as compared to the two-state solution we keep hearing all these politicians talk about. And yes, I've heard politicians who have said the same thing to me, ask me why. And of course, I can't explain why, but you just did an amazing job in your explanation. Because for us, in our mission, PJTN is a Zionist Christian organization. Right. We believe that God made a covenant to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's an eternal covenant, and that covenant consists of that God would be their God, Israel's God, throughout the generations. He would make them like the stars of the heavens and the sands on the seashore, and all the land that anyone sees belongs to Israel. It was given by covenant. You cannot separate the land of Israel. However, we have people who are pushing an anti-Zionist narrative, condemning Christians who support Zion when they have no idea, no clue what's going on. We've seen it recently dealing with Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens spewing lies about Israel occupying Palestinian land.
Well, first off, there is no, let's be historically correct. There is, to the extent that there is any party named goes by Palestinian, that actually would be Jewish. There was a country called Transjordan. There were Jordanians. The heir apparent in Jordan, his mother, quote unquote, is a Palestinian. He is half Palestine. When he becomes king, I guess you could say that clearly the Palestinian country will once again be Jordan. But, what people want to ignore is that, unfortunately, what is going on in the Middle East is a historic religious conflict, and that what you have is a group of people who believe, unfortunately, in a caliphate and believe in jihad, and for them, this is a religious crusade to eliminate every Jew from the Middle East, conquer all of Middle East, and ultimately conquer all of Europe and the world. And, Israel and the Jews are first, Christians are next. People want to ignore the reality, but, and I want to be careful. It isn't to say that every Muslim believes in the caliphate and follows that, but certainly those who are believers and those who do are a problem. Right. And, it unfortunately is a conflict where the outcome is binary. It is. Either they win and Western civilization loses, or Western civilization prevails and they lose. And it's that simple. Unfortunately, you can distill it that simply. this fiction of a two-state, our position is you cannot talk, you should not negotiate with a party whose charter seeks your destruction and elimination. It's absurd.
Absolutely. And we saw that even here recently. Qatar has been negotiating this peace deal with Israel, with Egypt. And we see the animosity and the hatred. And of course, since President Trump was elected, it seems that Hamas is kind of singing a different tune. Although some of the things that they've been doing have been absolutely outrageous. Some of the videos that they've been putting out, the images they've been putting out. But, Bruce, do you think that this current administration, now that we have a changing of the guard, now we don't have the Biden administration pushing this propaganda, Trump seems to be serious. Do you think that Trump is going to push for a two-state solution, or like he said, he wants to make Gaza the Mediterranean Riviera?
I've met POTUS a few times talking about a variety of things. I believe from all that I have seen and all the and other people's interaction as well, and other people I talk to, that fundamentally POTUS 47 in a sense will be a continuation of POTUS 45, which is a party who recognizes the underlying reality. Okay, the underlying reality is the reality is what it is, and it's nice to sugarcoat it. It's nice to ignore it. It's much more convenient, but unfortunately, you have to deal with the reality. And President Trump has historically been the strongest advocate for Israel and the strongest friend and president in the 75-year history of the state of Israel in the United States. And I know of no reason to believe that in his 47th administration will be different than his 45th. I mean, I know I've had conversations back with his former ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, and when Trump declared that Jerusalem was that was not only the capital of Israel, but the U.S. was going to move its embassy there. David was saying how the State Department was attempting to sandbag it and have it take years. And David and POTUS figured out how to do it in months, and pre-Dosh, a saving of about $2 billion in about a decade or whatever of planning. They just were able to do it, repurposed an existing building the U.S. had in Jerusalem. They didn't have to build a new building. They didn't have to have a 10-year plan. They just did it. And it's that type of dramatic action and ability to understand where you want to go and get there, and not allow the administrative state to continue to run the show and slow walk things they don't agree with. And I don't pay a lot of attention to all the noise. There's lots of noise. There are lots of people out there making noise. What I look at is action, and the real hard, irrefutable action was from the day that Trump said that the U.S. Embassy will be in Jerusalem to the day it opened was a matter of months. Something that no one ever thought was possible was done. So, I mean, that's the reality. There are lots of people with talk, but and he's appointed some very strong people, like Mike Huckabee in particular as ambassador. So, as I said, I have confidence that this administration will be a continuation of his previous administration.
Absolutely. Well, we definitely got 4 years to make the change. And of course, we've been working on the grassroots level, on the state level, on the local level to change the narrative in curriculum and education so that when Trump leaves office, there's going to be a generation that comes up that's informed and educated.
You know, I'm glad you brought this up because you're reminding me of when we first met. Because when we first met in Nashville at a function for the House Freedom Caucus, you were talking about what you were doing in the state of Tennessee at the forefront of education and making sure that education was about education and not leftist ideology and indoctrination. And you have been in that fight for decades. And you've led that effort in Tennessee, and some of what you've done has been replicated in other states, and you've done an outstanding job. And the reason why I'm glad you brought that up is the key problem when you talk about Hamas or you talk about the Palestine Authority, which, by the way, are two birds of the exact same feather. Both charters call for the elimination of the state of Israel, and both entities believe that their objective is conquest of all of the Middle East. And both have education that is indoctrination. When you start with kindergartens and basic computational math, literally is there were 25 dirty Jews. Your sister killed 12 and is now a martyr and has been celebrated. How many are left? How many are left for you to kill? That is not education. And until all of that is eliminated, okay, there is no such thing as a party to negotiate anything with. I mean, you can't negotiate with people if that's what as long as that's in their textbooks, there's nothing to talk to them about.
What Americans don't realize, and not just Americans, these are Europeans, Western countries, there is a main publisher, Pearson Publishers, also known as Savas. They have been publishing this propaganda to the West, to the Western classrooms, K through 12. And we shouldn't be surprised over the last year and a half with the marches and the rallies taking place in the cities across the country, really around the globe. We see our children aged K through 12 marching with pro-Hamas supporters. We have indoctrinated our kids. We are destroying the unique relationship America and Israel share together.
Oh, without question. I mean, late night TV hosts and others have been laughing, but it really is no joking matter when people who are actually in the gay and lesbian community march in support of the Palestine Authority and Hamas, oblivious to the fact that in those countries they would be immediately, literally thrown off a rooftop and executed, or if they were a woman, literally buried alive with their head stoned to death.
It's evil, absolutely evil. I appreciate so much what you are doing. What's going to be some of the projects that you are going to be working on as an organization coming up?
One of our main missions is we are education, and part of our education mission is educating elected officials and thought leaders and members of Congress. And we are planning on running trips to Israel, which will be a proper trip for members of Congress, where they will not go to Ramallah. We will not meet with Abbas. However, we will go to Judea and Samaria. We will meet with the villages there. We will probably sample some of the world-class wine being produced there. We will also spend time in Israel at all the key historic sites, both for Christians and Jews. And of course, and we will also have appropriate meetings with key members of the Knesset and the Israeli government. But it will be a very different type of a trip than those that are run by other organizations that seem at best to be confused as to what their mission is and what their focus is. I know that they recently was a trip last week, and I just heard one of the members of Congress who was on that trip advocating for that Hamas should no longer run Gaza, but the Palestine Authority should come in its place. And I'm thinking to myself, this person was just in Israel with another organization, and this is where he must have gotten that absurd idea.
This is the problem. Is we have people going over there undermining Israel's security by saying we should put another terrorist group in charge of Hamas. Or Hamas, of course, we know isn't going to tolerate it. There'll be a war between the two of them. But it's this type of mindset that is hurting the nation of Israel. There will be no peace. They will continue the status quo. What has to happen is the world has to recognize this land was given by right, by decree, by Almighty God himself, and the land belongs to Israel, all 12 tribes. Christians who read their Bible and know God made that covenant, we can't fall for these lies and this disinformation. We have to tell people the truth. We have to remind Christians, Judea and Samaria are in our Bibles, not the West Bank. And so, Bruce, I so appreciate what you're doing with your organization.
And as I say, the other part to that is that in Israel, and the Israeli community recognizes the role and the pivotal role of Christianity and Israel as the birthplace of both, of course, Judaism and Christianity. And Israel views its sacred duty as protecting each and every one of those historic sites that are as important to the Christian faith as those that are important to the Jewish faith. And Israel has a almost 75-year record of protecting and preserving those sites, and also, in fact, in a proper scientific and careful way, performing archaeological excavations to uncover more of the truth. And the fascinating thing is that every single archaeological excavation in Israel has confirmed what's in the New and the Old Testament.
That's right.
There has not been a single archaeological find that has contradicted the Bible,
or shown that there was a Palestinian influence in the country. One of our documentaries, Israel Indivisible, The Case for the Ancient Homeland, makes the case historically, archaeologically, legally, and biblically as to why Israel has rights to her ancient homeland. Right. And, I have sent this DVD to many members of Congress, state legislators, for them to see, here is the written proof, or here is the documented proof. And of course, we have the Bible to prove that. But Bruce, I want to thank you as we close with this interview. And I admire what you're doing. Thank God you're pushing the Zionist message, because it has to be brought to the forefront again. How can our audience learn more about what you're doing or get involved in what you're doing?
Well, our website, which does need to be updated, but you certainly are free to go to our website. It does make it clear exactly where we stand and who we are. Our full name is too long to have to type for a website, so we just shortened it to zionistleague.org. Perfect.
That's easy.
Which is easy. And if you go to zionistleague.org, you can find out all about us. It obviously, of course, we are a 501c3 nonprofit, and it does have a and you do have an ability to make a donation directly on our website.
Perfect. Bruce, thank you so much.
Thank
Let
you.
us know how PJTN can help you. We'd be honored to collaborate with the amazing work that
Thank
you're
you.
doing. God bless you.
Thank you. God
Thank
bless
you.
you and all the great work you've done for decades.
Thank you.